What is going on, everyone? This is the Clunker Showdown. I'm your host, Brendan Bryan, and let's get to some clunking. Well, after racing at two of the most chaotic tracks in NASCAR, Daytona and Atlanta to start the season, NASCAR said screw it for race 3. The Clunkers attempted to turn right at the first road course of the season at COTA. It was surprisingly a clean race with no real accidents outside of some spins and bullying of Connor Zilisch. This meant that the race for last was a real clunker special, with Cody Ware and Ricky Stenhouse being some of the slowest cars in the field. It seemed that Ware had the edge on pace, but it would all unravel when Joe Gibbs Racing's Chase Briscoe's car honestly just gave up on life and went to that scrap heap in the sky. Briscoe would snatch defeat from a definite top 10 run, which is pretty clutch when you ask me, also scoring a last place finish in the process. Further, right after Briscoe's implosion, Alex Bowman left the race for illness, racking up another poor result, and then the floodgates opened when Zane Smith, Ross Chastain, Carson Hocevar, Herrick Jones, and Austin Cindric found themselves in trouble late, plummeting themselves down the leaderboard. Probably the most important thing to start this season is not who finished worst, but the winner of the race, oddly enough. Tyler Reddick has won the first 3 races of the season, the first time that has ever happened in the NASCAR Cup Series, which I just have to applaud. Not for the actual accomplishment, that's sickening, but for taking another bullet, preventing another driver from accidentally accomplishing something, leaves 35 drivers still eligible for the Clunker Showdown after race 3. So for the 3rd week in a row, thank you, Mr. Tyler Reddick. This upcoming weekend, the Showdown races at its almost first traditional oval race of the season at Phoenix. Now we are starting to enter that part of the season where Cody Ware, Stenhouse, both Dillon brothers, Riley Herbst, and honestly at this rate, Austin Cindric can really suck up a storm and assert themselves as the worst of the worst. Also, now that we are past the Wild 3 to start the season, expect many of the actually talented drivers to begin to dig themselves out of their current clunker holes. And speaking of those clunkers, let's take a look at the standings and see who has positioned themselves best after 3 races for the Duff Cup. And let me warn you, be prepared for some surprises. And there is no bigger surprise than the current points leader for the Clunker Showdown. That being Alex Bowman, who finds himself 41 points ahead of the cut line, gaining 4 spots this past weekend at COTA in the standings. In second, we have Eric Jones, 32 points above the cut line, who gained 6 spots at COTA in the standings. Not too bad. In third, we have the 3 car of Austin Dillon again, who sits 29 points ahead of the cut line, staying idle in the standings after race 3. A lot of 3s there. That must be some Illuminati going on. In fourth, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Cody Ware, 27 points ahead of the cut line, gaining 5 positions in the standings. In fifth, we have the bullied Connor Zilisch, 27 points ahead of the cut line, falling 4 positions in the standings. In sixth, we have Austin Cindric sitting 25 points ahead of the cut line, gaining 5 spots in the standings. In 7th, we have Todd Gilliland, who also sits 25 points ahead of the cut line, but lost 5 positions in the standings. In 8th, we have Cole Custer, 24 points ahead of the cut line, losing a spot in the standings. In 9th, we have Josh Berry, who sits 19 points ahead of the cut line, gaining 3 spots in the standing. In 10th, we have Week 1 points leader, Chase Briscoe, who is 18 points ahead of the cut line, who gained a clunking best this week, 12 positions in the standings. He's not done yet. He had a taste of the apple after Daytona, and he wants another bite. In 11th, we have Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who's beginning his descent in the standings. He sits 15 points ahead of the cut line, gaining 4 spots in the standings. In 12th, we have Riley Herbst, who sits 11 points above the cut line, gaining 2 spots in the standings. In 13th, we have Christopher Bell, who sits 5 points ahead of the cut line, losing 7 spots in the standings. For shame, for shame. In 14th, we have Bell's teammate Denny Hamlin, who sits 4 points ahead of the cut line, losing 4 spots in the standings. In 8th, we have Kyle Busch, who had a crash out this weekend against his future replacement Jesse Love. He sits 3 points ahead of the cut line, losing 2 spots in the rankings. In 16th, we have John Hunter Nemechek, who sits 1 point ahead of the cut line, the last man in, but gained 2 spots in the standings. Not too bad. In 17th, we have Ross Chastain, first driver out, 1 point outside of the Clunker Showdown, but gained 9 spots in the standings. In 18th, we have Ty Dillon, who sits 2 points outside of the Showdown, also gained 2 spots in the standings. In 19th, we have Noah Gragson finally showing up to the party. He, like Dillon, is 2 points outside of the Showdown, but gained 6 spots in the standings. In 20th, we have Ty Gibbs, who is also 2 points outside of the Showdown, but lost 16 spots in the standings. Why? We know you're worse than this. What kind of tomfoolery is going on here? Just because Chris Cabehart's not here anymore doesn't mean you can just perform now. All right, tangent over. There you have it, everyone. Week 3 of the 2026 NASCAR Cup Series season is in the books, and the Clunker Showdown forges its path into the desert in a car with no pace to suck it up this weekend at Phoenix. Thank you so much for listening to the 2026 Clunker Showdown. I've been your host, Brendan Bryan, and I will see you all next time.